Staff of Computer Science Department of Sri Shankaracharya Technical Campus Bhilai. Now we are going to start with our session of this TTP, that is application of blockchain in IoT. Our speaker for this session is Dr. D. Chandrasekhar Rao. Dr. Rao is currently working as assistant professor in Department of Information Technology at Veer Surendra Sai University of Technology, Burla. With more than a decade of successful experience in impacting students' life through meaningful teaching. He holds almost 16 years of experience in teaching alongside more than 8 years of research experience. His research interest spans with both computer networking, robotics, cloud computing, blockchain, and IoT. More than 50 BTech and MTech projects were guided under his leadership, currently guiding three PhD scholars in blockchain and machine learning applications. Dr. Rao specializes in peer-to-peer networking, theory of computation, compiler design, cryptography and network security, and soft computing. He has contributed more than 12 research articles in many reputed international journals and conferences. Dr. Rao is the recipient of Excellence in Engineering Education through Innovation by Wipro Limited, India. He completed his PhD in Computer Science and Engineering in year 2019 from BSSUT, Burla. Completed his graduation BTech and post-graduation MTech from BPUT, Rourkela. We are so honored to have you as our speaker. Thank you, sir. Now I hereby hand over the mic to you, sir. Sir, please continue.
Thank you, Professor Abhishek Davangan, for this beautiful introduction.
Thank you, sir.
So, very good morning to one and all present here. I would like to thank the entire team of this teachers training program with the coordinator Dr. Siddharth Chobe and the co-coordinator Dr. Samta Gazviye for giving me an opportunity to present my session on application of blockchain in IoT. I hope today's session will contribute towards the objective of this training program. So let me share my slides. So sir, please confirm me, is it visible and my audio is clear?
Yes, sir. It is visible and audio is clear. Welcome, sir. Dr. Siddharth Chobe here.
Yes, sir. Thank you and good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir. You are visible and your PPT is visible and your sound is audible, sir.
Okay, then. Thank you. So whenever I am in slide, if there is some network issue, I will be disconnected. Please remind me because
Yes,
I'm
sir.
not
Yes,
able
sure.
to.
Sure.
Okay. Okay then. Thank you. Okay. So in today's session, as an outline, today we will see that what basically this blockchain we are talking about. And I think I have seen the schedule. Most of the speakers they have already given some basic ideas on this IoT. So I will not spend much of time in this basics of IoT. Then, what are the challenges in IoT, and how this blockchain is going to address these challenges in IoT? And we will see some of the IoT blockchain based application. Then I will finally conclude the session. So moreover, in this presentation, my objective is that to give you an introduction that what is going on in the recent times and how we can proceed with this research or some application development. So the main focus is that. Okay. So first of all, see this picture which presents the 30 technology areas that will drive the next decade. Here you can find the trend of blockchain. Okay, here a lot of technologies I have the trending technologies who are there. Out of them, 30 technologies here I have considered, and you can find over here the trend of blockchain is more. So nowadays everyone is talking about this blockchain. Okay, and some of us has also some misconception that blockchain we can apply it in anywhere with the application. Okay, most of us know the cryptocurrency that is known as a Bitcoin, like that things we know. Okay, there are a lot of cryptocurrencies also now, but the thing is that now everybody is wanting that we will go for this blockchain. Um, uh, Rather, knowing the basics of this blockchain, so we will discuss this today, that what exactly this blockchain is and when it will be applicable. All these things we will see. Okay, so before understanding this blockchain, first we will see this history of blockchain. So if we will see the history of innovation, then we will find that there are technologies developed for one thing and used for another. Okay, for example, you can take a case of microwave, sticky notes, and X-ray, which are all discovered accidentally or in search of something else. Okay, so I can suggest you one book is there that is Brilliant Blunders, and it is authored by Naio Livio, which archives the history of these accidental discoveries. And blockchain is one of them. So let's talk about the history of blockchain. So the blockchain technology was described initially in 1991 by the research scientist Stuart Harber and uh, W. Scott Starrington. So they wanted to introduce a computationally practical solution for timestamping digital documents so that they could not be backdated or tampered. So in this connection, they developed a system using the concept of cryptographically secured chain of blocks to store the timestamped document. Then in 1992, there is a Merkle tree. It is also known as a hash tree, were incorporated into the design, which makes this blockchain more efficient by allowing several documents to be collected into one block. So Merkle tree are used to create a secure chain of blocks. So this it stores a series of data records, and each data record connected to the one before it. The newest record in this chain contains the history of the entire chain. However, this technology went unused, and the patent is lapsed in 2004. So I will explain this Merkle tree in my later slide with an example, so it will be more clear. Okay, so next in 2004, a computer scientist and the cryptographic activist Hal Finney introduced a system called reusable proof of work as a prototype for digital cash. It was a significant early step in the history of cryptocurrency. The RPOW system worked by receiving a non-exchangeable or a non-fungible Hashcash based proof of work, which create an RSA signed token that further could be transferred from person to person. So this RPOW solved the double spending problem by keeping the ownership of tokens registered on a trusted server. Then here the key term is a double spending. So double spending is what? See, in an analogy, what I can say, suppose I have some cash with me, okay, and I use that cash in a transaction to purchase something or whatever. Okay, in a transaction I use that cash. Is it possible I can use the same cash for any other transaction? It is obviously it is not. Okay, so can I duplicate that cash and I can share that same cash for a next transaction? Obviously it is not, because when you will duplicate it, the cash, the transaction when it is happening, the other party, he may detect that it was a duplicate one. So in this physical transaction, so the this cash exchange, and if you are doing some double spending of that cash, then it is quite impossible. Okay, so now the thing is that, see, whenever we are talking about this digital currencies, okay, so digital currencies means that is a digital document. Okay, so we know the digital documents, we can easily, we can copy paste all these things, we can store it in many number of time as we want, as many times we want. Okay, so now here happens what, if you have some currency in digital form, so if we are able to copy it, then we can use the same amount for different transaction. Okay, then this type of thing is known as a double spending. So whenever you are making this cryptocurrency also, you have to keep in your mind that this double spending should not be possible. Okay, and the solution for this is known as a proof of work. Okay, whenever you are doing some sort of transaction, then you have to do certain tasks. Okay, so that also we will see in our later slide. Okay, further in 2008, the Satoshi Nakamoto conceptualized the theory of distributed blockchain. He improves the design in a unique way to add blocks to the initial chain without requiring them to be signed by the trusted parties. The modified trees would contain a secure history of data exchanges. It utilizes a peer-to-peer network for timestamping and verifying each exchange. It could be managed automatically without requiring a central authority. So that is the beauty of this distributed network, or we can say the peer-to-peer network. Okay, there is no central authority. Today, the design serves as a public ledger for all transactions in the cryptocurrency space. The evolution of blockchain has been steady and promising in this regard. So now we'll see what is exactly this blockchain, and why there is so much of hype. What if I will say the next big thing in the industry is blockchain? As we know, internet has affected all the industry in the same way, blockchain is going to affecting it, and that is going to be sure. Blockchain seems complicated, and it definitely can be, but its core concept is really quite simple. Many people think blockchain as synonymous with cryptocurrency, but it may have some powerful other uses that have not yet been explored. Blockchain is a system of recording information in a way that makes it difficult or impossible to change, hack, or cheat the system. In the spring of 2018, there is a country known as Sierra Leone. It is in West Africa, conducted the first blockchain-based election successfully. So we know that how the election is going on in our country. Okay, so if this will be done through this blockchain technology, then obviously there will be no doubt of this. We know in the news we are listening that this vending machine that vote vending machine which is tampered, like that. A lot of discussion is going on soon after the election. So if we are able to implement this blockchain technology in taking this election, then it will be more efficient as per the as compared to this traditional way of doing. Okay, so if you have heard the term Bitcoin, then it is obvious you heard the term blockchain. So as we have discussed earlier, Satoshi Nakamoto created the Bitcoin with the blockchain technology. So Bitcoin is basically a digital cryptocurrency and it works on peer-to-peer network. There is no central system in between. For example, if you want to send money to your friend, then you need a bank as an intermediary to whom you trust. The bank here acts as a central system. However, in Bitcoin, there is no such central authority. You can directly send money to your friend. So in the previous case, you have a central authority, and in the latter case, you don't have any central authority. Rather, it is distributed. So when we are talking about this distributed, then there are two problems. The first problem is security, and the second problem is trust. Okay. So first of all, if we are going to use this cryptocurrency, then we should be ensured that how much secure is this technology and how can you trust this technology. So as a solution to security, here the blockchain uses the cryptography, which we will discuss later. Okay. And for the trust, the blockchain uses a distributed database. It is called ledger. Then it may come in your mind that what is a ledger? So, well, it be a normal database or it is a central database. So this, excuse me. So this ledger as a concept of blockchain is distributed, and there is no central database. A blockchain is essentially a digital ledger of transaction that is duplicated and distributed across the entire network of computer systems on the blockchain. So each block in the chain contains a number of transactions, and every time a new transaction occurs on the blockchain, a record of that transaction is added to every participant ledger. The decentralized database managed by multiple participants is known as the distributed ledger. Once the data is stored in blockchain, then no one can change it. If someone tries to change it, then you will come to know about it. Okay, but how? Now let us understand this concept. In blockchain, we have list of blocks where we can store personal information or your Facebook data, or you can store anything in it. In case of Bitcoin, we store transactions. We can use this block for storing informations of some informations of patients in a hospital or some government information like that we can store in this block. Now the question is, can we change the content of a block? The answer is yes. We can change the content of the block, but that is not the case in blocks of Bitcoin. Bitcoin uses a concept of hashing. Okay, so this hash we will come soon in my next slide. So for the time being, we can define the hash as a one-way function which takes an input of any length, but it will produce a fixed length of output known as hash. Now the question is, how hashing is used in blockchain. So for example, I have some list of transactions. Okay, so some transactions I have made, some n number of transactions, then it will be kept in one block. Okay, let us assume it is a block one. Then what happens? So using there is a concept which I have told, I will come to that, that is Merkle tree. We have to find the hash of these transactions. Okay, so now when the next block, okay, each block should contain some number of transactions. When that block is filled up, then we have to go for the next block for the next transactions. So whenever you are adding this, the next transaction in block 2, so this block 2 will contain the hash of this block 1. Okay, the hash of block 1. Okay, and this process will continue. The next block, when you will create a block 3, it will contain the hash of block 2. So in this way, everyone is connected. And just think, what about the first block which is created? So the first block, it should not store the hash of any previous block because it is the first block. Okay, and this block in the blockchain, it is known as a genesis block. Okay, so from this block, the blockchain was started, and in this way, it is connected to every block. Okay, so here, if some information is changed over here, then it will impact the whole blockchain. So here, this blockchain is a type of digital ledger technology, that is DLT, in which transactions are recorded with an immutable cryptographic signature called a hash. So this means if one block in one chain was changed, it would be immediately clear that it had been tampered with. Okay, so this is the basic concept of a blockchain. So now the question that why we will go for blockchain, who can get into it, and what are the prerequisites if we are adopting this blockchain. So nowadays everyone is talking about this blockchain, but it does not matter for which industry you work for, all are trying to implement blockchain. Now blockchain is a cutting edge technology which is changing a lot of stuff. It is replacing the old way of working and implementing the new way of doing the things. So here we'll discuss why blockchain and why it is so famous. Then we will discuss who are the potential users of blockchain, and finally, what are the prerequisites for this blockchain. So the answer to our first question, there are certain issues with the current technologies for which we want to shift. For example, internet is the current technology and it's so amazing and changed the way of doing business. It has created different domains of doing business. Now think about the companies like Amazon, Facebook, Google. They all are running due to this feature of internet. And also we are also now we are together this feature of this internet only, because few days before, whenever we are conducting this FDP, all these things, we have to attend it physically. We don't have such technology to do, but now we can see by sitting in our home also we can present anywhere. So this is possible due to this feature of this internet, and obviously the applications. Okay, so now this internet was meant to open for everyone, but now internet is controlled by some companies. Okay, the companies which I mentioned, because these companies are managing us. Because nowadays if you'll find, everybody is referring this YouTube, everybody is referring this Gmail. Okay, Google Meet, now also we are doing Google Meet. Okay, similarly Facebook, okay, Amazon, everybody is associated with these companies. So we can say nowadays this internet is morely governed by these companies only. Okay, So it is good of now because we are getting good service from them. But what in future? So now you can check in when the Google Gmail was started. Okay, so it was free. Nowadays they are charging. Okay, you can use 15 GB of their space. If you are exceeding from that, then you have to pay for your use. So we have not thought of this when we are created this Gmail, but now think the everything whatever service we are taking from them, we are paying for them. Okay. Second case, here we can take another one example. See, whenever we are doing some online transaction, let us take now I am here, I want to send some money to one of my friend who is situated at US. Then what happened? So whenever I want to send some money to my friend, then our currency is rupees and their currency is dollar. Then what I have to do, I have to move to the bank, and first I have to do a exchange of rupees to dollar. Then there are some exchange fees. Then whenever I want to transfer that, then again some transfer fee. Okay, we know PayPal, that is a leading payment gateway which is used for transfer of money from any one location to other location with the currency also. So the PayPal is charging 4% of the transaction amount. So now think it is quite you can say they're charging more on this, because if you are going to send some 1 lakh rupees, then you have to give some 4,000 to them. Okay. Then also another issue is that if I'm transacting now, then that amount to be reflected in the recipient account, it will take more than 48 hours. Okay, more than 48 hours, or it takes some time also. In some cases it is faster, but mostly within 48 hours the things will be settled. So now what happens? We want these things should be very fast and should be cost effective, or we can say there is no cost. Then here this blockchain comes into picture. So blockchain says here everything is done in a decentralized way. We need nothing in the middle to do our job. So we can directly do the desired transaction, but then we have one issue here. So what is that issue? The concept of decentralization. Though it is not a new term, it has been used before. If everything is done in a decentralized way, then how we ensure the trust here? How we will trust the other party? Then suppose I transferred some money to one of my friend's account, and later my friend says you have not done the transaction. Then how we will prove this? Okay, so for this, the blockchain provides the trust. All the transactions that occurred are going to be stored in a digital ledger. Okay, so just before we have discussed DLT. So this, all the transaction that is which is occurred in the blockchain is going to be stored in a DLT, and which is immutable. Okay, and for that is the property for which the blockchain is mostly used. So now the blockchain is amazing due to this feature, and for this reason all the organizations are now focusing on the blockchain. Now coming to this next question, that who can get into this? So first, the advisor. These peoples are most towards business, and they think about the business strategy for implementing the blockchain. Then the next thing is the developers are the technical persons who need to develop the application based on the blockchain. Then the next is the experts who are know the architecture of a blockchain technology and who help in designing everything from start to end. Then the prerequisites for this, that you should have some sound knowledge on this cryptography and distributed computing. Okay. So now this network for this blockchain. So blockchain is basically works on peer-to-peer network. I hope you know the example of this peer-to-peer network, that is a Napster, and another is a BitTorrent. Napster, it is initially used for this music uh, uh, distribution. Okay, and BitTorrent, I know that this has been pretty known by everyone, because we are using whenever we have some large files. Okay, so we are trying to download it using this BitTorrent. Then what is the concept behind this BitTorrent? So whenever you are downloading, so now you will be a peer to that network, and that BitTorrent application will search for that file where it is present. Suppose he has got in the entire network 20 people are there with whom that file is there. Then your whole file will be pieced into several pieces of some size. Let us assume 1 MB. Okay, you have a 1000 MB file, and let us assume that 1000 pieces are there. Then each piece is of size 1 MB. Then what will happen? This application, what it will do, it will simultaneously download, and also whenever some pieces are with you and some new person is connected to this network, then at the same time those pieces can also be downloaded from you also. Okay, so simultaneously you can download the pieces from your peers, and within a very short time span you will get your desired file. Okay, and what is the beauty here? See, if you are disconnected in between, then whenever you will start, so you will start from that place only. Suppose before your disconnection you are at 50% of downloading, then when you will be again connected, then you have to start from that 50% only, not from zero. But in case of, as compared to the client server model, okay, so like this Google, Facebook, Amazon, all are based on this client server model. So if you are something downloading from them, then if at any point of time you are disconnected, then whenever you will be connected, then you have to start from the beginning. Okay, so that is the drawback in the client server model as compared to this peer-to-peer model. And this blockchain is completely works on this peer-to-peer network. Okay, so now in prerequisites we have discussed that hello. Just a minute, just a minute. So sorry for the interruption, because I got a call from my head. Okay, so okay, so just before we have discussed that prerequisites for blockchain, you should have sound knowledge on the security. So we know that security is based on these 4 chief principles, that is known as confidentiality, authentication, integrity, and non-repudiation. So here the security in blockchain is achieved through this cryptography, and I hope this concept is well known by you, that confidentiality. Okay, whenever we want to hide some message, whenever we are sending some message to someone, okay, so we want that if it is confidential, then it should be transferred in a secure channel so that no one, the attacker in between, can see that message. Okay, so your system should be that much robust. Okay, so that's what the confidentiality. Then comes the authentication. See, authentication means what? Sometimes whenever we are representing ourselves as some, suppose we have issued one notice to someone with our signature, then it should be authenticated that this notice has been generated from me only. Okay, so that is known as the authentication. Okay, so generally we are using this identity card, passport to authenticate ourselves. Okay, so this is known as the authentication. Now, integrity is that whenever you are transmitting your data through a secure channel, it should not be tampered. Okay, uh, it should not be tampered with, so that, say for example, here we can take, suppose here the computer A is given a request to transfer some $100 to D. Okay, in between C is the attacker. Okay, C is the attacker. It is sending this instruction to this bank. C is the attacker who modifies this statement, and he has given that transfer $1,000 to C. Okay, if it happens, then your integrity is compromised. Okay, so your system should be that much robust to identify or protect this integrity. Then comes the non-repudiation. So it is a complex term used to describe the lack of deniability of ownership of message, piece of data, or transaction. For example, you have done a transaction and later you have claimed that I have not done that. Then there should be some system which can ensure that this transaction was initiated by you only. Okay, later stage, after taking the service, you can't say that I have not taken the service. So that is what the non-repudiation. These are the 4 chief principles of security, and all these things are there in the blockchain. So now the cryptographic solution, we know that whenever we have a raw file, okay, we will apply some key to encrypt it, then we will get an encrypted message, then we have to send through some medium like email or FTP. Then at the receiver side, what happens? It will be decrypted using the key, that is a private key or the public key, depends on the scenario, to get the raw file. So this is a typically a cryptographic solution whenever we are sending a file from one person to another person. So now we know that this cryptography is broadly categorized into 2. One is a symmetric key cryptography, another is asymmetric key cryptography. So the main difference between these two is that in case of symmetric key cryptography, the same key is used for the encryption as well as decryption. However, in the asymmetric key cryptography, there is 2 keys. One is known as a public key, another is known as a private key. Okay, if one of the key is used for encryption, then the other key will be used for the decryption. It is in the asymmetric key cryptography. Okay, then comes the concept of this digital signature. Okay, so in digital signature, what happens? See, suppose I have created a document, then what I will do, I will create the hash of that document. Okay, we know that hash of any of a document is a irreversible one, that from hash you can't reach to this message. Okay, so now this, if something is tampered here, the complete hash value will be changed. Now what will happen? By combining these two, we will apply the private key. Okay, I will apply my private key and I will send it. Okay, then at the receiver side, what will happen? He will decrypt using the public key, and again he will find the hash of the message which he has obtained, and he has to match with the received hash and the obtained hash that the message is tampered or not. Okay, so this is similar to a physical signature whenever we are putting, while we are doing some sort of transaction in a bank. Okay, we want to withdraw some money. Then what happens? We have to put our signature. Then when we will give it in the cash window, they will verify our signature. Okay, the similar process is happen digitally over here. Then the thing is that, see here, only the authentication is uh, achieved. Here only the authentication is achieved, but there is no confidentiality. How? Because see, as you have used your private key to encrypt this one, okay, so your public key may be known by other persons. They can decrypt that message using your public key, and they can compare the hash with that, and they can see the message what you have sent. So this approach does not provide the confidentiality. However, authentication is that whoever is received this message, by using only use public key only, this message is going to be open, which indicates that this message is originated from you only. Okay, therefore authentication is achieved, but not confidentiality. So the same thing if you will do in this way. So here what happens, see this complete message with this hash, what I will do, encrypt using A's private key. Now let us assume this is A and this is B. Okay, first I will get this message with the digest, and I will encrypt it using the A's private key. Then what I will do, again I will encrypt that using B's public key. So whenever I'm encrypting using B's public key, it ensures that, because this is going to be opened only using B's private key, and except B, no one knows the private key of B. So therefore, whenever that message reaches to B, so B uses its private key to decrypt the message. Then again that message will be again decrypted using the S public key. Then the similar process takes place. Okay, here you can check both this confidentiality as well as authentication is achieved. So depending on the scenario, we have to use that one. What we want to do we want to achieve both? Then we have to use this. Otherwise, we have to go for that. Okay. So now coming to this blockchain, till now we are discussing this blockchain, which the basic thing in a blockchain is a block. So now in the blockchain system, we have the concept of node. So you can say a computer or a mobile in a network as a node. The devices that are connected to the internet, such as routers or desktops, can be treated as a node. Similarly, in blockchain network, we use a node, and it can be a computer or a mobile. So now the question is, what this node does in blockchain? So depending on the type of node, it will perform different operations. So the blockchain network nodes are of two types. One is a full node, another is a partial node. So then what is a full node? The full node is basically a computer who contains the entire blockchain. Okay. So the current size of blockchain, if you will see, it is approx 380 GB as of 12th of December 2021, and day by day it is increasing. Okay, so you can verify the thing using this URL, that is blockchain.com charts and block size. So as we are saying that every day some blocks are get added into the blockchain, and that size now as of that date it becomes 380 GB. Okay, so now we will come back to this nodes. So as I've told, we have full node and partial node, and full node contains the entire, it stores the entire blockchain. That means this whole 380 GB content will be with the full node. Okay, then apart from that, there are some additional tasks of a full node. So it will verify all the blocks that are going to be added into the chain, and once it will verify, then only it will store it. In blockchain, there is another term called the miner. Okay, so generally a full node can be a minor. So a minor cannot be a partial node. Okay, a full node will be always be a minor. So minor are generally mines the block, and how they mines that we will see soon. So a computer who runs the mining software can be called the miner. However, there is no compulsion that a full node to be a miner. So now we can have a node that is full node or a full node with miner. So in case of a full node, we need a huge amount of storage as it is going to store the entire blockchain. So a general computer with huge space can be considered as a full node. However, to be a miner, it should have high computational power in terms of high CPUs and GPUs. Okay, here I will show you one example of this Canadian cryptocurrency mining lab. You can see how many number of CPUs and GPUs are connected, because whenever you are going to mine, so at that time you have to use a spend of you have to use a lot of this resources, the CPU and GPUs for mining that. So all these CPU and GPUs are connected for do a mining. So on the other hand, we have a concept called the partial node. It is also termed as the light node. Example, let us say you want to use a Bitcoin or any wallet and you want to do that in your mobile phone. Then what you have to do, you have to install that software in your mobile, and once that software is installed in your mobile phone, then your mobile phone will become a node in the blockchain. However, it will not contain the whole blockchain. Okay, it will contain the part of the blockchain, and that's why it is known as a partial node or a light node. And basically, this mobile phone which are used as a partial node or light node will be used for the wallet purpose. Okay, so now we completed with what is a node in a blockchain. So then we have used this term hashing. So as I've discussed that in case of hashing, it is a mathematical function which takes an arbitrary length of input and produce a fixed length string that is called the hash. Okay. So whatever be a string length, okay. Suppose you want to take a string of length of size 5 GB and another string length of 10 GB. So whatever be the length, you will get a hash value of fixed length. Okay, so here we know there are some well-known hashing algorithms such as Message Digest MD and SHA secure hash algorithm. Okay, so now here check. Here I have used this string. My name is Chandrasekhar, and I have used SHA 256 algorithm, and you can check here. It is a 256-bit SHA. Okay, you can find the message digest of this message. Okay, now you check. Now I have taken the same string. See, only change with this C. Okay, here it was capital C, here it was a small c, and there is nothing changed, and applied the same algorithm, and now you can check what is the digest, and you can compare both this digest. So you can see it is completely different. Okay, and that is the beauty of this message digest or this secure hash algorithm that is known as a hashing. Okay, so this hashing is irreversible. That means suppose you have this, then you can't go to this message, because as I have told you, this message can be of any size. This message of can be of any size, but here it is depending on this algorithm. This is of 256 bit only. Okay, so there is no way that from this digest you can reach to this one. Okay, And there is also the examples. If you have seen that Ubuntu, whenever you are downloading Ubuntu, you can check the release of Ubuntu in its official site. Every Ubuntu release is given with some message digest. That means the hash value is given to you. Suppose you have used a BitTorrent to download that Ubuntu software, then after downloading, to cross check, you have to use that hash value. Okay, you have to apply the hash and you have to check, are you getting the same hash or not. If you are not getting the same hash, then you should be sure that something is changed in that operating system and you should not use that, because this Ubuntu release is open to everybody. Okay, it is, we know that it is a free software. Okay, if some attacker want to do some malicious activity, he can change some functionality in that OS. So for that reason, you can find that Ubuntu has given this releases, the hash of the releases. Okay, now we will come to this Merkle tree. Okay, as I have told you that the blocks are connected, every block contains the hash of previous block, and the initial block, which is starting block, it is known as the genesis block. Okay, now in each block we have some transaction, and for every transaction we have a hash value. So this transaction depends on the application. So if we will take a case of Bitcoin, okay, whenever Bitcoin, then transaction means here from one person it is going to another one person, and the amount, the date, time, all these things is recorded for a transaction. Then this information hash value is calculated using any well-known hashing algorithm. Okay, so now similarly, if you have some other application, so based on that application, whenever you are doing some sort of transaction, it does not mean that only monetary transaction, it may be anything. Suppose you are storing something, you are retrieving something, okay, you are changing something in your data, okay, all these things will be treated as one transaction. And for every transaction there will be one hash. So here you can check, for every transaction there will be an hash. Then finally a block will contain some set of transactions. Let us we will assume that one block will contain n set of transactions. Then all these n set of transactions hash will be evaluated, and that will be the hash of this block 1, and that is going to be stored in the block 2. Okay, so in this way this is stored. So now here, to find the hash of all these transactions, we are using the concept of Merkle tree. So the next is the Merkle tree. Now let us take, here I have taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 transactions. Okay, so now let us assume in a block we can accommodate only 8 transactions. Okay, 8 transactions we can accommodate. Now what will happen, for every transaction we will get a hash using the hashing algorithm. So similarly we have a hash for every block, okay, every transaction, sorry. So now what will happen, this Merkle tree is also a binary tree, which leaf nodes contain the hash value of each transaction. These are the leaf nodes. Okay, these are the leaf nodes which contains the hash value of these transactions. Now the every 2 leaf nodes is connected with its parent node. Okay, that this node contains the hash of both these hashes. Okay, suppose I have a hash 1 value and I have hash 2 value, then both of these hashes are combined to get a new hash. Again we have to apply the hashing algorithm to get a new hash, and that hash is this one. Similarly I will get the hash of this node. Then finally, these two are combined to get the hash of this one. Then these two are combined to get the hash of this one. Then these two are combined to get the hash of this one. So in this way, I will get the hash of all these 8 transactions. So now the question you may have, suppose we have some odd number of transactions, then what will happen? So if you have 9th transaction, then you have to add the 10th transaction as the same 9th transaction to make it a binary tree. Okay. Similarly, when it will be, see here, this 9th and 10th will be there. So now this will be this hash. But again, now these two are combiningly this one and this two combiningly making this one. Then for this, we need another one. Then what you have to do? You have to do a copy of this one again. So you have to make this hash. Okay. Again, here we have, for this we have 2. Then again, we have to make the copy of this one. So we will get this hash. Then finally, this and this will be combined to make the final hash. So in this way, we can find the hash of all the transactions. So I hope the concept is clear, the Merkle tree. Is there any doubt on this? Hello, am I connected?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so if there is any doubt, please interrupt me. Okay. So now, in this way, this hash is evaluated. Then you can find here the number of transactions are there, and here the Merkle root hash. Now, every block, okay, in a blockchain is consisting of the set of transactions as well as the block header. Then what is inside this block header? This block header is consisting of the previous block hash. Okay, so you can find here it is a genesis block, the first block what I have told, and then after this genesis block, all the blocks will have 2 things. One is a block header, another is a block, okay, which contains the hash of the previous block, then timestamp, then the version, then the Merkle root hash of this transaction, this block transaction, then the nonce and the difficulty target. Okay. So here, this version, so typically in blockchain, there are 4 versions. Okay. That is 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 and 4.0. Okay. So this 1.0 is used for cryptocurrency. And this 2 is used for smart contract. Okay, I will tell this term later. What is this smart contract? Then the 3.0 is used for dApps. So dApps is what? Distributed applications. Okay, so as I told that this blockchain is distributed. It works on distributed network. Therefore, whatever applications I am going to be developed on blockchain, that should be distributed. So nowadays we are using in our mobile phone, in Android, we are using the Play Store, okay, to download the apps, okay, which is known as the centralized app. That means there is some central authority who is managing that. But whenever this dApps, it is known as a decentralized apps. Then this in decentralized app, we have some platform, okay, where we will develop this. Like Android application, we have some platform to develop those Android applications. Similarly, we have some platform that we will see in our next slides how to develop this dApps. Then the next version is 4.0, and it is reserved for the industrial use of blockchain. Okay, this is for the industrial use of the blockchain. Then this difficulty target, what is this term? See, it specifies the complexity and the computation power required to mine the network. Okay, if we are having a high difficulty target, then it implies that we need more computationally expensive machine to mine it. Okay. Then comes the nonce. It is known as number only used once. Okay. Number only used once. So it is a number which blockchain miners are finding, and on average it takes almost 10 times to find out the correct nonce. So a nonce is a 32-bit, it is a 32-bit number, okay, and which maximum value is 2 to the power 32. So the job of the Bitcoin miners is to find out the correct integer value, which is a random number in between 0 to 2 to the power 32. So it becomes computationally expensive. And all other terms, I think it is clear. The previous has, the Merkle root has. Okay. So this is typically a block in a blockchain. Then comes the types of blockchain. Okay. So there are broadly three types of blockchain. It is known as public blockchain, private blockchain, and federated blockchain. So initially, this blockchain came into existence due to this Bitcoin, because they wanted to implement this Bitcoin in public and in a secure way. To achieve this, the concept of blockchain has been used. So now the industries are thinking to implement blockchain in their applications. Okay, because Bitcoin is a public blockchain and all the contents are visible to everyone, but in an anonymous way. That is, you are able to see that someone has done a transaction, but you can't identify who done a transaction to whom. Okay. So some organization are thinking that it is not safe, and they wanted to create their own blockchain, which is termed as this private blockchain. Any financial institution or government or education or hospital may use this private blockchain with known entities for which they don't need to proof of work. Okay, as I told you, in case of public blockchain, before adding a block to a blockchain, we need to do some proof of work. So in case of private blockchain, there is no need of doing this proof of work, because you have to add your known entity. For example, for a hospital, they have to add the information of every patient and their day by day record of their own patients, which they know. Okay, so therefore there is no need of doing a proof of work. So in case of private blockchain, that proof of work is not there. Now the question comes, which one is best? Should you go for a public blockchain or a private blockchain? The answer is that it purely depends on the application on which you are you want to develop this blockchain. Okay, on which application you want to implement this blockchain, that depends on that application. Okay, so public blockchain, whenever you are using a public blockchain, then anyone can be part of this. However, due to the presence of POW, that is proof of work, in public blockchain, it is bit slow, because it takes around 10 minutes of time to add a block. And why it is taking 10 minutes of time? Because whenever some transaction takes place in a block, okay, so that transactions need to be verified with other peers who are associated with that blockchain. Okay, so whenever those peers will approve that transaction, then only it will be get added into the blockchain. So therefore, once it is added into the blockchain, it cannot be changed or tampered later. Okay, so therefore, to do these things, it takes around 10 minutes of time So in case of private blockchain, it is very fast because all entities are known and thus no requirement of POW. Okay. So now after this, there is a term, it is known as consensus in blockchain. So consensus is a buzzword in the concept of blockchain. We know blockchain is a distributed ledger and all the mining node in the blockchain contains the copy of an entire block. Now let us consider we have 5 mining nodes in a blockchain and each of them contains the copy of the entire block. Okay. Now suppose a new block is arrived for adding into the chain. Okay. So we have 5 miners who contains the copy of entire blockchain. Okay, they contain the copy of entire blockchain. So as I've told you that miners are always a full node, and full node means it should contain the copy of the entire blockchain. Now there is a new block is arrived and you need to add them. Then the job is done by these miners only. So the question is, who will take the responsibility of adding this block into the chain? Because there are 5 miners. Okay, that means who is going to mine that block? Suppose all decide to give it to node 5. Okay, out of these 5, all other miners, they have decided that we will give this job to node 5. Then node 5 will mine that block and add that block in his local chain. Local chain means in its local repository, and after adding, the same will be replicated in all the rest of the nodes, that is 1 2 3 4. Okay, now the question is that what if this node 5 will be malicious? So how you make sure that all the nodes come to the consensus and they will have to have the same copy of it? So that is where we have to follow some consensus algorithm. So in blockchain world, we have so many consensus algorithm using which you can actually agree on one particular state of blockchain. If a new block is arrived into the blockchain, then who is going to add this block is defined using this consensus algorithm. Now, based on the permission and permissionless blockchain, we have different consensus algorithm exist. So the consensus algorithm, the famous consensus algorithm is known as proof of work, which we are talking just before. Now what is this POW? All the nodes in the network are going to spend some computing power to solve a problem. Who will win the game or solve the puzzle fast will given the responsibility of adding that block. Okay, so in POW it should be ensured that a node is spending some sort of computation power before adding the block into the blockchain network. Similar to POW, we have a POS, that is known as a proof of stake, where each node spends some stake and the node will and the node with high stake will win the game and given the responsibility of adding the block into the blockchain. Okay, so then the question is that if POW is there, then why POS? Why so many consensus algorithms are there? So the answer is that in case of POW, a node has to spend a lot of computation power and also spending during mining, rather spending stake. Okay. In case of stake, what happens? You have to give some money before you are doing that mining, or before you are adding that block into the stake. into the blockchain. So now, who is offering more money? So more stake. Okay, I'm just giving one example. Stake in terms of money, that can be anything, maybe in terms of computation power also. Okay, so who own the rest, he will be assigned with the job. So rather, spending stake will be correct option, because a malicious node will never participate in stake, because he knows if he wins and done some mistake, then he will be kicked out of the network. Okay, and that is this the proof of stake, and this proof of stake, this can be used in the another blockchain concept that is known as Ethereum. Okay, so proof of work is generally used in this Bitcoin. Okay, similarly, there are other consensus algorithm, if you want to explore. So you can explore those things. That is proof of elapsed time. So that is used by the Intel Corporation. Then proof of deposit. So here you need to deposit some sort of amount before entering the network. Then proof of capacity. So you have to give some memory space. Okay, so that is known as a proof of capacity. Okay, so now the properties of DLT. Now here, which already we have discussed, that this distributed ledger technology, okay, which is the programmable, that means this the features of this distributed ledger technology is that it is programmable, it is secure because no one is going to manipulate, and it is anonymous. Okay, then unanonymous also. Okay, then timestamp, immutable, and distributed. All these things make this distributed ledger technology so much efficient that nothing can be tampered, okay, in a blockchain. So now the working of blockchain. So what happens here? So whenever a peer wanted to initiate a transaction, okay, then it generates the transaction, and which is broadcasted to the blockchain network. Okay, so in the blockchain network, every computer in the network check the transaction against some validation rules that are set, like that proof of work or proof of stake. They have to use those things to validate that transaction. Then once that transaction is validated, the transaction is get added into the block, and the block is duplicated in every node in the network. Okay, every node in the network, then the block is finally going to be added into the blockchain. So this is the process which we have discussed. Okay, a transaction, first is a transaction will be initiated, then a block will be identified where this transaction will be stored, then block is sent to every node in the network, then node validates the transaction, and node receives for mining that or conducting that proof of work. That node who is responsible for doing that, he will receive or he will earn some rewards in terms of Bitcoin or some other also. Then once it has been done, it is going to be added into the blockchain. So this is the whole process. Then the next one is the Ethereum. Okay, so what is this Ethereum? So now recall this Bitcoin. We know Bitcoin is based on the concept of blockchain. Some here the concept of this Bitcoin is using the concept of blockchain, and this Ethereum is similar to this blockchain concept only. Okay, So, and it also distributed in a decentralized manner. Okay. So now we know that blockchain will make the internet decentralized. However, nowadays this internet is captured by these big companies such as Google, Facebook, Amazon. Then how we make this internet decentralized? Then we need some decentralized applications, which I have just discussed earlier, that is dApps. So then what about Bitcoin? It was developed only for the electronic cash system. It will solve the problem of money transaction online without the help of any central authority, which is purely decentralized. But when we talk about the apps for specific applications, they are developed, then they are running on the internet under a centralized server. If we are taking the example of Play Store applications, okay, all those applications are running under a centralized server. If we want our apps need to run in a decentralized environment, then we need some decentralized platform where we deploy our application. And that's what this Ethereum comes into picture. So thanks to Vitalik Buterin, who is the inventor of this Ethereum. In Ethereum, we have the amazing concept known as EVM. Okay, it is similar to the JVM, that is Java Virtual Machine. It is known as a Ethereum Virtual Machine. So using this EVM, the developers can develop the decentralized apps, and they can deploy that app in the Ethereum platform. So we came to know Ethereum is basically a blockchain where we can write codes and develop distributed applications. Now, if that programming code represents any type of contract, then we call this as a smart contract. Okay, so just keep it simple. If we talk about e-commerce website, then we have some popular websites such as Amazon, Flipkart, and Snapdeal are quite famous, but I don't even try in any other website. Okay, we have a lot of websites are there, but most of us, we are rely on this Amazon, Flipkart, Snapdeal, Myntra, all these things, because we trust on them. We have a trust that if anything goes wrong with our transaction, okay, if we are not received, then our money is safe and they are going to refund us. But similarly, there are a lot of other online sites are there which we still not use for shopping, or we trust less on them as compared to these companies which I have told. So if we are able to develop some smart contract between the parties, then we could trust those parties. Okay, so here what happens, see, because whenever you are purchasing something from an Amazon or Flipkart, there are a lot of things are associated with, because there is one seller who sells that product, and Flipkart is a mediator who uh, takes the order on behalf of us, and it goes to that seller. And once the seller gets a confirmation from Flipkart, he then pack that product, and there will be a shipping partner. Okay, it may be other than that organization, because Amazon, Flipkart also, they have their own designated partner, shipping partner, but sometimes also they are using the e-commerce and there are a lot of others vendors are also there for shipping they're using. But now there are different entities are there from whenever you are purchasing whenever you are placing a order into that site till that order reaches to you, there are a lot of entities are associated with this transaction. So now, if there will be a smart contract between all of these entities, then we can trust each other. Okay, suppose the Amazon is given its contract to some what you can say, that shipping partner, and if that shipping partner is a malicious one and he will take all those things, okay, then what will happen? Okay, so there should be some smart contract with all these entities. Okay, so a smart contract, it is nothing but a computerized transaction protocol. So once you are placing the order, automatically it sends a notification to the seller that someone has requested your product. You immediately you pack it. Then at the same time, automated message is going to the shipping partner that to collect that product from this place, and it is automatically connected in the roadways or in the in the airways to reach that product to you. Okay, so all these things is possible due to this smart contract. Okay, so now check, based on this, till now we have covered this blockchain concept till now, and here I have shown the research trends. See, I have nowadays the most popular keywords I have taken, that is artificial intelligence, and only I searched in IEEE Explore. Okay, so now you can find in artificial intelligence the number of articles. Okay, so the number of articles is around this, which is comprised of this journal and conferences. Then machine learning, you can find this. Okay, then your deep learning, it is this. Okay, then internet of things, it is also there. Then 5G, it is also there. Are some cloud computing, it is there are a lot of publication. I have not considered the other publication house, only I have taken the IEEE. Here also you can find there are a lot of publications on this, but this cyber security, you can find the same. Now whenever you are coming to this digital currency, now check, that is very less number of publications are on this 336, and whenever it comes to blockchain also, you can find there is less number of publication as compared to those trending technologies. So which indicates that here is a much scope of doing the further research on different application areas. Okay, so now as per our objective of today's session, okay, so let us take this one example, the advantage of blockchain. See, central authority, that entity, and these are, it is shown like the Bijan Mallya, Nirav Modi, all this. Now these people, they have escaped due to why? Because we have a central entity who passed the loan, and nobody else about that bank is knowing that these peoples have taken this much of loan and this much of uh, means their credential is this. Okay, if this could be done in a blockchain concept, in a blockchain application, if all these financial transactions are made in blockchain concept, like a Bitcoin, then it is quite difficult to escape from this country to these peoples. Okay, so that is the advantage of this blockchain. Okay, but due to this central entity, they are easily escaped, and also there are some government norms are also there. Okay, so now we will come to the next topic, that is Internet of Things. So I hope this concept has been taught by the other speakers in the previous sessions. Okay, so mostly IoT is an ecosystem of connected physical objects and that are accessible through the internet. And the thing in IoT could be a person with a heart monitor or an automobile with built-in sensor. That is objects that have been assigned an IP address and have the ability to collect and transfer data over the network without manual assistance or intervention. So the embedded technology in the object helps them to interact with the internal states of the external environment, which in turn affect the decision taken. Okay, so IoT is basically the smart device around us, which is getting more connected and capturing information about our daily lives and sending this information to the service providers, where this data is being captured, processed, and then some result being sent back to those devices, and that can be like some actions or some service offered to us. So nowadays you can check, we are using the smart watches, and there is a they at continuous time interval they are monitoring our health record, and you can find if you need some water, they are giving some notification either by vibrating or by some sound that you have to go for some water. Okay, like that nowadays we can say these smart devices, they are managing our lifestyle. Okay, so IoT is becoming more and more popular with the sort of services it is offering, and the number of IoT devices is also increasing day by day. So now think, this huge number of devices will capture a huge volume of information about our daily lives, about different aspects and details of our daily life. And this information are shared with the service provider. Currently, the IoT ecosystem basically relies on a three-tier architecture. Okay, where we have low-powered IoT devices consisting of some sensors, or even your take an example of your smartwatch. Okay, so this smartwatch is a IoT device. Okay, which is connected through a three-tier architecture. That means this smartwatch is connected through a mobile, then that mobile is connected to the service provider through the cloud. That was what happened. So this device, whatever information it gathers, it sends it to the mobile, and from that mobile, this is transferred to this service provider. Then, based on those informations, the service provider may prompt some actions. Okay, then that will be communicated through you through this gateway. So that will, here our this mobile will be acting like a gateway between the service provider and this smart devices. So the main aim of having this three-tier architecture is that because the IoT devices have low resources and they can technically afford the cost of signing in. That means if I want to connect this watch directly to the cloud, okay, without a gateway, then that this has not that much computational power, or that much not, it is not that much what you can say configured with the technologies so that it can directly communicate to the cloud. So anyway, we need a gateway. We need a gateway in between. And that gateway will solve all those processes that is need to be between us and that smart devices. So here the example which we are discussing, the smartwatch, the existing solution, it is a centralized one. So that means all the communication and the authentication authorizations happens through the central controller. Okay, so that even if two devices are sitting in a same room and next to each other. If they want to talk to each other, they have to go through the centralized server, that is the service provider. Okay, so considering this IoT, when we have millions of devices, so this solution might not be scalable, because that is central. Because if lot of this device, because day by day the smart devices are increasing. Okay, so day by day it is increasing. So lot of smart devices and lot of informations at every second we are getting. Then managing this lot of information, it is not scalable in case of a central entity. So which needs a decentralized application. Okay, which can manage these informations. Then if we are going for the decentralized, then as we have discussed, there is two concerns that are known as the security and privacy are still the significant challenges. As we know that these IoT devices have limited security and limited resources, so that they have come with even no security safeguards built in. The embedded algorithms are quite weak, and normally they use defaults and some sort of username and password to authenticate the devices. So a distributed denial of service attack may be possible. It also compromises our privacy, as these devices uses sensors to capture quite a lot of information about our daily lives. So soon in your smart home, you may have some motion sensors, and we may have some smart lights, and we also may have some smart doorbells, and all these things that captures information about our daily lives. So the service provider will technically have huge volume of information about us. So we have different aspects, and technically they can build a virtual profile about us, which will compromise our privacy. Because as we are associated with these smart devices, okay, day by day, so those central entities, they are capturing a lot of sensitive or some personal information they are capturing through these smart devices. Because we have smart cameras, we have smart light, we have smart television, smart refrigerator, all these things. So by capturing those information, they will get our what you can say, our way of working, way of means how, means our pattern. They are going to check our pattern, and when they know every pattern of us, then they can create a virtual image of us, and they can work on behalf of us, and which may be a threat also for us. Okay. So at that time, we have a very limited control over our data, because we also don't know those information which are collected from us by the service provider. It may going to sell that information to some other person also, some other entity also. So here we can't technically monitor all these things, and except trusting the service provider, we don't have any other option. And we also don't know if the service provider is doing some malicious activity using our data. Okay, so there would be any solution to these challenges and a couple of other challenges that exist in the current IoT ecosystem. So here we are gonna to discuss how this blockchain can tackle these challenges and can benefit from that. So here, these are the advantages and disadvantages of IoT. So in the disadvantage, already I have told you that that security and privacy is a main concern. Okay, and how we are achieving this security and privacy using that Merkle tree, that timestamp, okay, all these things, proof of work, proof of stake, okay, all these things we can achieve in a blockchain concept. Okay, these are the disadvantages in case of IoT, because IoT means very small devices which are connected to internet, maybe directly or indirectly. Okay, though they have a lot of features, but this is also some disadvantage which is associated with these IoT devices. Okay, so to address this issues of IoT, we can integrate this blockchain concept into the IoT. So IoT is transforming and optimizing manual processes to make them part of a digital era, obtaining volumes of data that provides knowledge at unheard of level. This knowledge is facilitating the development of smart applications such as the improvement of management and the quality of life of citizens through the digitization of services in the cities. Over the last few years, cloud computing technologies have contributed to providing the IoT with the necessary functionality to analyze and process information and turn it into the real-time actions and knowledge. This unprecedented growth in the IoT has opened up new community opportunities such as mechanisms to access and share information. The open data paradigm is the flagship in these initiatives. However, one of the most important vulnerability of this initiative has occurred in many scenarios is the lack of confidence. Centralized architectures like the one we use in cloud computing have the significant contribution to the development of IoT. However, regarding data transparency, they act as the black boxes, and network participants don't have a clear vision of where and how the information they provide is going to be used. So in this regard, the blockchain have a huge potential to secure these data which we are obtaining from these IoT devices. Okay, so in this way, this blockchain comes into picture here to integrate with this IoT. Then, what is the advantages we are going to achieve if we are going for this integration? Okay, so the advantages are the decentralization and scalability. Okay, previously it was a centralized one, now it becomes the decentralized one. Okay, so then the identity. So using a common blockchain system, the participants are able to identify every single device. Data provided and fed into the system is immutable and uniquely identifies actual data that was provided by a device. Additionally, here blockchain can provide a trusted distributed authentication and authorization of the devices for IoT applications. So this would represent an improvement in the IoT field and its participants. Then autonomy will be there, reliability is there, okay, security will be more when this blockchain will be added to this, the blockchain concept is added to it, because we know blockchain, all the transactions which have occurred in a blockchain are immutable. Then market of services and secure code development. So it is not that we are planned that we are going to use this blockchain, but the question is that once you are implementing blockchain, then in which platform we will develop, because these apps are going to be decentralized one. Then we have some decentralized platform. Just now we have discussed that Ethereum. Okay, so in those platforms we can develop our application in a decentralized manner, and also there is a ease of deployment of that Ethereum based applications. So based on this interaction, this IoT with the blockchain, so there can be three models. Okay, one is known as a IoT with IoT, okay, and IoT with blockchain, and another is a hybrid approach. Then what is this IoT with IoT? In this approach, that could be the fastest one in terms of latency and security, since it can work offline. So here the IoT devices have to be able to communicate with each other, which usually involves a discovery and routing mechanism. Okay, here only a part of IoT data is stored in blockchain, whereas the IoT interaction takes place without using the blockchain. Okay, whenever there is some interaction between these IoT devices, they are not going to use the data which are stored in the blockchain. Finally, the interaction which happened, that is going to be stored. So among them, they can do an interaction, and whatever transaction has been done, that can be recorded in this blockchain. Okay, so it doesn't mean that every time they need to communicate through blockchain. Okay, so this is the simplest and you can say the fastest way of managing the IoT devices using this blockchain. Then here, the next approach is IoT blockchain. Here what happens in this approach, all the interactions as go through the blockchain. They cannot communicate directly. Okay, whatever information they have to send to the blockchain, and from that, that blockchain will give the information to the other one, and from other one, whichever is received, that will be communicated to the requested devices. Okay, so this is an integration, that is IoT blockchain. So here we can say, here it will be a little bit slow as compared to this one, but it will be more secure because all the transactions that is happened between these two devices are going to be recorded. Okay, so here what happens, they can talk any number of times, and the successful transactions are going to be recorded in this blockchain. Or also we can do the selective transactions also. We don't want to, because this IoT device is sensing a lot of information, okay, every time, at every second. So we can decide which information we are going to store, that we will store in the blockchain. We will not store all information that is captured by these devices. Okay, so so this is the concept IoT blockchain we have discussed. Then another approach, which is known as a hybrid approach, okay, where only part of the interaction and data takes place in the blockchain, and the rest are directly shared between the IoT devices. Okay, this is the mixture of these two, this one and this one, which is the hybrid approach. Okay, so one of the challenge in this approach is choosing which interaction should go through the blockchain and providing the way to decide this in runtime. So a perfect adoption of this approach would be the best way to integrate both technologies, since it leverages the benefit of blockchain and the benefit of real-time IoT interactions. So in this approach, the fog computing could come into play, and even cloud computing, to complement the limitations of blockchain and the IoT. So these are the approaches. So now, challenges in blockchain IoT integration, that is a storage capacity, because we have a lot of information is gathered. Now we have to decide which information to keep, which information to discard. Okay, then as the IoT devices is increasing day by day, okay, so volume of information or data is also increasing day by day. So the storage capacity is one of the concern in this. Okay, then security, that is how you are going to achieve this security and the privacy, which type of algorithm you are going to use, because already we have discussed for the security how this consensus algorithm and that is proof of work, proof of stake, that is, and what will be the smart contract, okay, to maintain the anonymity and data privacy. All these things need to be decided when we are integrating this. So this is the research scope here, okay, where we can think of that what should be the smart contract, what should be the consensus algorithm, okay, how to maintain the privacy. All these things are the topic of you can say the research, okay, in blockchain and IoT integration. And it's just the beginning, okay. So now you can go for the papers, okay, the publications which address these integrations, okay. And if you want to work on this, so first you try to learn the dApps, okay. You use any platform like Ethereum, okay. There are a lot of platforms are there. Out of them, Ethereum is quite popular, okay. You will try to learn that Ethereum and try to develop these small applications. So there are many peoples they're working in this domain, okay. This blockchain, mainly on blockchain on different applications, but integrating with the IoT informations of the IoT applications, that is a new one which you can explore these things. So now these are different platforms, okay, and the blockchain concept which they are using, and the consensus, the cryptocurrency and the smart contract they have or not. So Ethereum, it can be a public and permission based, okay. So the consensus algorithm is used POS, that is proof of stake, and the currency that is used is Ethereum, Ether. And smart contract, yes, it is there. Similarly, we have Hyperledger Fabric, multi-chain, Litecoin, Lisk, Quorum, and HDAC. Okay, so these are different blockchain, whereas some are permission based, okay, and some are public, okay. And here these are the consensus algorithm. Here the currency they are using, and this you can find Litecoin, they don't have any smart contract, okay. So based on your application you can choose the platform, okay, on which platform you will go for to develop this application, okay. Then IoT blockchain applications, till now what has happened, so LO3 energy, so it is applied on the energy microgrid, and it is on the Ethereum platform. Then ADPT, that is smart contracts involving IoT devices, it is also developed in Ethereum platform. Then Slockit, renting, selling, sharing smart objects, it is also based on Ethereum. Then AI GAN, that insurance network for IoT assets, okay, it is also based on the Ethereum. Then MyBit, investment in IoT devices, it is also based on Ethereum. So Aero Token, sharing airspace market for drone navigation, it is on based on this Ethereum. Chain of things, that is identity, security, and interoperability, it is also based on Ethereum. Now Concave, that is identity, data provenance, and automation, it is different, multiple platforms are there on this application, that is Riddle Code, blockchain of things, okay. So means combination of more than one platforms are there here. So these are the existing applications now, or the work is going on. So you can also develop your own application based on this blockchain, okay. So in the conclusion, so here today we have discussed the basics of blockchain and IoT, and now we have discussed the how to integrate this blockchain with this IoT, advantages and challenges while integrating this blockchain and IoT, and the different platforms for integrating this IoT blockchain applications. Okay, so this is just an, you can say this is an introduction. I have not gone in a deep, so this is just an overview that you can go and explore the rest of the applications on yours. And so thank you for listening me. And if any doubt or question, may be welcome. So I don't know, I have taken more time, I think.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I extend a really heartily thanks to our speaker, sir, who spared time from his busy schedule to grace this session. Today we had a point